People often ask me when it really hit me. Not the day I was diagnosed, not the 18-hour operation, not even radiotherapy. They mean, when did you realise your life had actually changed? For me, it wasn't in the hospital. It wasn't in front of a doctor. It happened at home, over a plate of chicken and mashed potato. I'll explain. If you're new here, my name's Dan. Back in 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. By this point in my journey, I survived surgery. I finished treatment. On paper, I was recovering. People looked at me and saw someone who'd made it through. What they couldn't see was that I was having to relearn things I've been doing my entire life. And one of those things was eating. Now, that probably sounds strange. Until you're the one sitting there wondering how you've forgotten something you've done every single day since you were born. I still remember sitting at home with a plate of chicken and mashed potato. Nothing fancy, nothing difficult, just an ordinary meal. Before cancer, I'd never once thought about how I ate. You sat down, you chewed, you swallow. You get on with your day. That's it. It's completely automatic. Until it isn't. That first meal felt like somebody had handed me somebody else's mouth and expected me to know how to use it. It hurt to chew. My tongue didn't feel like my tongue anymore. In fact, I can't really feel it at all anymore. I was trying to work out how to move food around my mouth, but nothing behaved the way it used to. Eventually I realised the only way I could manage it was by using my fork to move the food around. Think about that for a second. Something you've probably never consciously thought about. I suddenly had to think about every single meal. Then there was the radiotherapy. The chicken didn't taste like chicken anymore. The mash didn't taste like mash. Everything tasted wrong. My chin was still numb. Still is. So is my bottom lip. Completely numb. I can't feel a thing. I can't feel where the food even is. I remember gravy running down the front of my shirt and I genuinely couldn't feel it happening. Before cancer, that would have embarrassed the life out of me. After cancer, it's just another reminder that nothing works the way it used to. Then I tried to swallow, and I couldn't. Not because I'd rushed, not because I'd taken too much. My body simply just didn't have the strength. So I had to cough it back up, take a breath, and try again. Nobody ever teaches you how to swallow. You just do it. Until one day, you can't. What stays with me isn't actually the meal. It's the thought that came afterwards. I didn't sit there thinking, how am I going to eat again? I didn't even think, why has this happened to me? My very first thought was, my family won't want to go out for meals with me anymore. I genuinely believed I'd become the person everybody had to wait for. The awkward one. The slow one. The one who'd make everybody at the table feel uncomfortable. Now looking back now, I know that wasn't true. My family have never made me feel like that. Not once. But cancer has a way of planting thoughts in your head that feel completely real. And at that moment, I genuinely believed I'd become a burden. Looking back now, I don't think I was grieving food. I was grieving normality. Nobody thinks about eating until they can't do it. Nobody thinks about swallowing until it becomes too difficult. Nobody thinks about how much life revolves around food until every meal becomes something you have to prepare yourself for. Family birthdays, birthday cake, Christmas, meals out, date nights, meeting friends. Food sits at the centre of so much of our lives. And suddenly, the thing that used to bring people together became the thing I dreaded the most. I cried afterwards. I was angry. I was embarrassed. I felt completely defeated. Not because I failed to eat chicken and mashed potatoes, because I realised this wasn't a bad day. This was my new reality. When I got home, my wife knew what had happened. I told the people closest to me, but if I'd been living on my own, I'm not sure anybody else would have known, because that's another thing illness teaches you. You become incredibly good at hiding the things you're struggling with. People see you smiling and they assume you're doing well. They don't see the battles you've already fought before lunchtime. When people ask me, when did you realise cancer had changed you? They usually expect me to talk about surgery, or scars, or losing half my tongue. I don't. I tell them about chicken and mashed potatoes, because that was the day I realised that ordinary life wasn't going to be ordinary anymore. It wasn't that one dramatic moment, it was hundreds of tiny ones. And that meal was the first. That was the day I stopped waiting for my old life to come back and started learning how to live this one instead. Cancer changes your body overnight. Learning how to live in that body takes years. That plate of chicken and mashed potato wasn't the hardest meal I've ever eaten, but it was the meal that changed the way I saw the rest of my life. Because for the first time, I understood that recovery wasn't about getting back to who I was. It was about learning who I was becoming. There was another moment, a little while later, that hit me just as hard. I was driving home one evening when a song came on, and for a few seconds, I forgot I'd ever had cancer. Then I opened my mouth to sing along, and I heard a voice that I didn't recognise. I'll tell you that story next time.